Alright, here's my second video. I'm going to get into some of the basic variable types. I'll show you two examples. I'll explain some of the stuff in math, some of the symbols like the plus, the minus, the multiply, the divide, the remainder. I'll talk about a little bit of some methods. Explain them to you. Probably won't get into them. I'll definitely show you the examples, show you that, and then keep moving on. So I'll come through this real quick. This is a doc type. HTML, it's an HTML5. We're using it within PHP script again, as you can tell is right here. Don't say nothing there. Okay. And explaining, declaring a variable. Here's a statement to declare a variable. How you declare it. Var means variable. My identifier is going to be my variable equals symbol. Then you have your string and a quote. This is JavaScript basic variables. An explanation of the var, the my variable, the equal symbol, and the string. So number one var, that's this right here, right there, is used to declare a variable to be used within JavaScript. You definitely use this here, var. If you don't use it, it's declared anywhere, meaning that's going to be a global variable. It can be used anywhere within the code, and it's frowned upon within your coding if that's the way you're writing your variables. Best to keep writing your variables just like this, declaring them. That's what can be used in certain places. You can pull from that. It'll get into what a lot of coders and programs call a scope as well. Can use it in certain places, and that's the only place you can then. For example, if I use it within a method, it can only be used within the method. It's not a global variable, which it's all over the place. You're pulling from all over the place. So it's good, clean coding. So definitely get into the habit of just naming and declaring your variables immediately, right from the beginning. So that's what var is, declaring your variable. Two, the my variable right here is basically called an identifier. Called an identifier. And its name should always start with either a letter, underscore, or $sign. After that name, keep adding if you want. And always remember it's case sensitive. Meaning, if I write little m, little y, big V, and then I try to get my string that I'm assigning to this variable from somewhere else, and I name it big M, name it this, big M, little v, like that, it's not going to work. Case sensitive. It understands it as little m, little y, big V, so on and so forth. And that's what I mean by case sensitive. Naming schema, camel case, the way you should write your variables. Or get used to writing it that way. You can write it any which way you want. I'm not telling you certain ways to do it, but get used to writing in some naming scheme. Equal symbol here means assignment operator. So I assign this string to this variable. That's what that means. So keep going here. This is a JavaScript basic variable. So the variable, this is the string piece right here. This is a variable name value called a string. It's in the quotes, or it could be double quotes, that type of stuff. The semicolon in the back is right here. This basically terminates the statement. All of them. You always use that. Keep trucking here. Importance. What's this? JavaScript language does not require you to declare variables. You can just use them immediately and reference them within your code. This is not typical for other programming languages such as C, Java, ActionScript, etc. True. You can just use it without this and declare them, use them anywhere. That's the way it is. That's why some people call it a weak language, but it's an excellent language. I like it. So always declare them. Best thing. Now let's keep moving down here. Statement below prints out my variable string. Explanation, document is the page rendered when I run it. Okay, document means the page is rendered when I run it. This right here gets the document when it reaches the DOM and it gives output from HTML. That's what it means by that. The dot right pushes a string as output to the screen. So dot right, it's a method here. You use the dot right to pull and use these methods. and I'll explain some of those. But here's my identifier from above. So I'm going to print this statement out. Let's do it real quick. There it is. This is JavaScript basic variables. It works. So that's how you should do it. Now, can't write JavaScript variables like if you like it as well. These are multiple variables in one statement. So I can write my variables just like this, just one thing. And then I can write them just like this. Var, first name, last name, email, phone. That's what I mean by that. I put a lot of comments and instructions here so you can definitely read them and use that. Keep going down. Here I declare multiple variables and assign values to them. Since JavaScript we require coding, meaning not strictly confined to a certain type. And I'll explain certain type. But let's look at the example. Variable here. First name I assigned to Josh. Last name I assigned to Henry. Email I assigned to email. And phone I assigned to phone. Separate them all by a comma. And I close it off with a semicolon. So what I mean here by strictly confined to a data type, it's not strictly confined to a data type. For example, if I use a language like Java, I will have to use, if I'm using numbers, I would have to state it as a double. X equals whatever number ended. Okay, that's how what that means. That's a certain type. I'm using type of double. So if I'm using integer, I mean X, I have to give it a number 3. That's what I mean by that. That's a certain type as well, integer. JavaScript, you don't have to do it. Var, boom, keep going. That's what that means. So let's try to print this statement out. Okay. First name is going to print Josh. It's going to print Henry. It's going to print the email. It's going to print the phone number. So let's run this real quick. So I can show you the code and explain a few things. Yep, it printed my first statement from the first one, and then it gave me Josh, Henry. Here's Henry. Here's my other statement, Josh. Here's my email, and here's my phone number. So it definitely works. I didn't space them out. I didn't give them a new line, that type of stuff. So don't worry. I'll show you those eventually. Let me look at the math. Math now. Let's go. Math, they use several symbols. You have your, let me write them down here. I'm using the Mac, so I'll shift 8 will be my multiply symbol. Multiply symbol. This will be my minus symbol. You have your plus symbol. This can be used for concat. That means to add to a string. Example would be, let's just say word, this, hello. Basically, these words will come together. I'll show you an example of that. Or it can just be the plus 2 plus 4. Sorry. 2 plus 4 equals what? 6. Depends how you use it. You have your this symbol, divide. You have your remainder symbol. If 7 remainder 2, it would equal what's left over from 2 into 7, basically. So you know 2 goes into 7 3 times, and you got left over, so it should give you a 1. If I had 10 and 2 goes into there, it'll give me a 0 because 2 goes into there's no remainder. So I have this. Here's a remainder. Let's do that. Var x equals 10 remainder 2. Document, get the document, write it out, x. Let's see. Oh, let me close the other ones out, so I don't want them to get caught here. Close that out. Here it is here. I'm going to print that statement. 0. That's right. 2 in there 5 times. There's no remainder left over. It is 0. So you also have your Let me close these out. var num equals 20. You got the plus plus, you got the minus minus. This will increment, this will decrement. Number goes up 1, number goes down 1. That's what they mean. Let me go down to here. These are post and prefix. So prefix will give me a increment my number from 20 to 21. Let's see this done. 21. It went up. That's what that does. This one right here, decrement, it'll bring it down. So if I run it, it should give me 19. Yep, it does. Excellent. So let's close that out. So we understand thus far what all the variables are. You've seen some of the little math stuff, seen how to declare the variable. You understand what var is, or your identifier after that, my variable. You understand the equal sign, what that means, to assign it to that string or number or whatever it could be. That's the way you would use it. And then the semicolon after that, you know some of the little math stuff you just seen real quick. I'm trying to see what else. You may see some symbols such as, well, let me show you real quick some of these simple value types. So if you're using numbers, they're never quoted. So numbers are never quoted. You can use the numbers. They say never quoted. Never quoted. You can use either plus or minus or decimal numbers. That's for using numbers. If you were going to use, say, let me see, strings. Those are basically words. That's what they basically are. So if you're going to use strings, you can, they always have to be always quoted. Always quoted. Either single or double quoted. Anyway, single or double quotes. Those are strings. They're words. So another one is if you're using Boolean. Boolean, that's going to be either true or false. Always remember that. I'm going to show you two examples of how some of this code is used. You'll probably come across in math, if you're using math, what is null or undefined. That basically, null is going to be your non-value. That's what basically it is. Your undefined is going to be the if a variable is declared. I'm writing this real quick. Variable declared, but has not been assigned a number or string. It would give you undefined. Null is non-value. That's what those two. You definitely see either one of those. I'm trying to think of something else. What else do you have in mathematics? You'll definitely see this NAA is not a number. That will come up. You'll have something which is called also in infinity in mathematics. So definitely see those two. So those are some of the things you would see. I'm trying to think big type of pieces that I'll get into. But anyway, those are some. Let me get into some of this code for you here. So let's look at names. Here's one code. As I mentioned before, let me close this one out. Names is my HTML. Here's my is HTML5. Here's my shiv, as I explained to you, shiv there about the doc type. So depending on what not operating system, but what whether it's Internet Explorer, Google, Safari, browser you're using. And if it's using an older browser, this will render this HTML tag in readable. If you're using an older one, Internet Explorer 9, as you can see, that type of stuff, that's what this shiv does here. It doesn't have no style sheet, but it's in there. This is the head tag, this is the body tags. My form field set. Here's my the post method, and this is my form, the form. Here are my first name. This is what you'll see at statement out. This is what you'll see in last name, formatted name. So what I'm going to take, I'm going to input the name, whatever name it is, Jack Moss, and then it'll give me the formatted name. It'll say Moss, comma, Jack. That's going to be the output. As I mentioned before, name here is used if you're using server side. The ID is you're using JavaScript or client side. You use this to pull the information from this input here, or this will be from the server if you put the information into a database. Required always means you have to fill it in. So hopefully those of you understand that. Here's my external JS. This is my folder. This is my folder. This is the names JS folder, names JS. Let's open that up. Here it is, very simple. Get into that here. So I explained the HTML. Hopefully you understand it well. Now the JS. Remember this name. Here's my form name, the ID, the form. If I use this here, JavaScript, you definitely want the page to load fast within a browser, whether it's Google, Safari, Firefox, whichever. So, and it's all event driven, as I mentioned in my first video. JavaScript, depending on what you hit. If I hit this submit button, this is what I mean by hit the submit button. Matter of fact, let me run it for you. Here it is. Let's put Jack Moss. So if I hit, this will send it's an event. Boom. Moss, comma Jack. This is what we call, let me go back here, formatting a name. It's formatting the name. So once I hit that click, it's an event of which click, it'll jump to the names.js, which will signal this window onload equals init, which will window to initialize. As I mentioned before, it will shoot up to the function init. Use strict, as I mentioned what that was before. You can see that in my first video. It will call the document basically from the browser. It'll get element by ID, the form. As I mentioned to you, the form. Here it is written. And you went back here, the form. There it is, the ID. It's pulling it. So on submit, once I click the on submit button, format names. So format names, it's calling the other function. So if I shoot up here, boom, format names is right here. So here goes some comments as well here. Function call when a form is submitted. Function formats the text and returns false. Okay. Format names. Use strict always. This is stores the formatted name. Formatted name. So whatever I put, Jack Moss, is going to be stored into formatted names because it's going to format that name for us. It's going to flip it back over. So it'll get a reference from the names. So my first name, my last name that I input, first name ID, last name ID. Right here. Document, what's rendered to the browser. It'll get element by ID. It'll communicate with the browser DOM and get that information, first name, last name, and it'll get the value I put in there. So once it gets that, it'll actually create the formatted name, and here it is, formatted name. We don't know what it is yet. That's why we have an empty string, an empty variable here that's declared. So it'll grab it and then it'll put it in here. Last name will come first, and then it'll come first name. This quotes right here with a comma in it is for the quote can come up on the output. So now it'll display the name, document, as I mentioned what that was before, get element by ID, what's the result, and dot value equals a formatted name. So it'll show the result. The result is going to be my formatted name. If it's not, it's going to return false. It will prevent the submission on that. So that's what that is. So as you can tell here, and that's the main pieces of this already. Nothing else. Okay. That's how fast that one is done. Let me close this one out. Names. I'll discard. Let me go into the clothing one. Here's the thing to use a calculator if you're buying clothing or whatever it is, you're going shopping or something. You know all these intricacies here. You know that. Here's the form ID is the form. You know how this is set up. The name, the ID, the value has to be 1, minimum 1 number. So I'm going to start it off with a minimum 1 and then definitely required again. You'll see the price name, the price ID, value it starts with, and required. If I run this, you'll see it. Starts with a value, 1, value there. You got your tax rate, you have your discount, you have your total. Alright, tax rate. You got the name, you got your ID, you know those, server side, client side. They already have a value within the box, so you can see how to put it. Basically, this is telling you how to format your numbers, how to put it in. If I were going to put in a value for tax rate, 2.1, 2 dot this, decimal point required as well. Your discounts, your totals, then you have your calculate. That's going to be your submit button. Call in the JS again from the folder. 2 different examples here, JS's. Let me open those. Here, I submit, and I'm going to use clothing 1. Once I submit, you already know it's assigned here. The event listener shoots up to the init. In events, let's just see the form. When you use a form, it's going to get the form ID here. Then the form object is going to calculate. So it's going to call my calculate method. It will shoot up here. Boom, to calculate. There you go. Empty string because we don't know what it is yet. It has to do its calculations, and then we're going to put it into the variable total, or the identifier total. That's where I declare total. So you got your references. We're going to get all the information you input. Quantity, price, tax, discount. Then you're going to calculate the initial total. So you take total. Total will equal quantity times price. That'll be total. Then you want to get the tax on that total. So your tax definitely divided by 100 or times or equal to 100. You want to get an exact amount. Increment that. Then you have, what is your tax? Do you take the total times or equal to the tax? This statement here. Then you factor in the document. So total minus or equal to the discount. If you put a discount $5, it will definitely subtract it here at the end. Then it will render it out. So if I show you that, where is it? Quantity $5. You can put 5.0, put 00, 5.0. Tax rate 10%. Discount of 25 bucks. What's my total? There it is. You see all this numbers printed out before that. It's giving me that out, but we can fix that with something, with some of the methods I'll mention in a few minutes. That's how that works. So that's a second one, so you can see. Clear this one. Try this one. Let me go back here, change this, take the number off. Save this. It was a little more quicker. Let's run this sucker again. There it is. Increment that per unit, say 25. Tax rate 6.0. My discount 90. Let's see what happens. 16 total bucks. Doesn't have all the symbol numbers there. So we go back here. My empty string to take the total, get the total. And once I do all the calculations, you know all these. Total equals quantity times price. Did before, you want to do that. Then you want to do all your taxes. Then you want to minus the discount right there. After you do all your tax stuff, minus the discount. Then you want to format it. This total dot two fixed means 2 decimal places only to print out. So let me go over here to show you this. Let's just say I made that 7.0 and this was 13. It's giving me only 2 places. That's what it means by output, 2 places only. So I use this method. This is a method used to render only showing 2 numbers instead of a running total. Totals such as 35, and it keeps going. The numbers keep going. That's what it means. So you want to stop it at just, it's 2 numbers, what it is total. 23, sorry. That's what 2 fixed, but you always have to remember you have to put the 2 within inside of it. That's what that means. Then you output it. And that's what this one is. That's all it is. Okay. And let me see, get into that. Let me go back here and show you real quick some of the other ones. This is going to be math as well. Some math and strings. So this next one, if I run this, this is just going to be my break line. Okay, let me grab that. Come over here, another break line, just depending where I'm at. This is math. This is strings. I'm trying to think what else. Those are going to be the main ones. So let's look at the math real fast. Some of the methods you can use. And we always remember, you use it with a dot, whatever method it's going to be. So if I am doing math, so as you mentioned before, I got a variable called num dot, as you've seen, 2 fixed. Whatever number you put in here is how many numbers are going to show up. If I put 2, it would show 23. If I put 5, it would show 5 numbers. That's what 2 fixed this method is here. Or this function. Sorry, I keep thinking of methods. These functions they're using here. In JavaScript, methods would be in Java. So here goes another one. Let's see, another one in mathematics would be, I'm trying to think of some good ones. You have something that's called a math object in JavaScript. It's already set, such as it's any time you have an object that is set with a certain number, it's called a constant. Always remember that a set number in a math object such as 3.14, I think that's the pi, it's always set. It's always going to be 3.14. pi. So, and it's a math object, and it's always a constant. Anytime you have a number to set, it is a constant. So that's another piece there. It's a fixed number. You have as well taking strings. How do you take strings? Taking strings to numbers, such as using strings as numbers. How do you manipulate strings as numbers? Taking strings as numbers, you would use the functions are parse float or parse int. As you can tell, this will give you an integer. Gives you an integer. If you use parse float, this gives you a decimal. So this is some of what some of the math functions are and what they use, or methods and how they use them. So those are just some of them, just giving you a few. Now, if we're using strings, you'll see a lot something called the toString method. So that's one you should definitely get used to. You'll definitely see that. But I'll show you how some of these are used in coming videos. But one thing, you definitely see something called a linked. When you see a dot linked connected to some string, what does that mean? This basically means how many characters are on that word. Example, word. So this has 4 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it could be any word. That's what that is. That's what the dot linked is. Now if we go and try to use, say I got a variable called Jack Moss, and I want to get the first index of that number, we would use something like dot char at, and that would be 0, because we know in programming all our numbers start with 0, or letters start with 0, 1, 2, 3, instead of the way we start with numbers 1, 2, 3. Always remember that 0 will give you the first value within the string. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's what that is. That's 1. Let me keep that name there. Just explain some other ones if I can find some others. I'm trying to think real quick. Or you can use index of. That's another one. Dot index of. And where's something located? Just put a letter in there in quotes. So if I put K, and it should give me an output for K. Boom. You think it's going to give me 1, 2, 3? No, it will give me 0, 1, 2. So it's going to be in the place of 2. Remember that. That's what index of. Where is K located? There. You have also, I'm trying to think, slice. Dot slice is another one. It pulls a substring. Slice it from there. Quote, if I say probably thing is moss, prints it out. That's a slice. And I'm thinking that's it. That's all I can remember off the top of my head real quick right now. And you'll start getting used to this stuff when you start putting things in there. And I'm just going through basic things real quick and how you do certain things. I'm going to keep putting more things out there. Be ready for my 3rd video, which I talk about control structures, if else, those type of things. I think it is that I'm going to get into. But that's it thus far. If you have anything, just comment and I'll get back to you hopefully as soon as possible. All right, thank you.